Welcome to the Holder Standard Podcast, where we explore leadership and the high agency existence that is possible when we take responsibility for the outcomes around us. Last episode, we learned about the gnarliest of dog days of entrepreneurship from Christina Ramirez after she pulled off a unsanctioned 007 type operation to get her product into national Whole Foods distribution. Part of what we heard from her was the learning and adjustments she made in the face of catastrophic failures. Today we've got a national treasure in coaching, Tex McQuilkin. Tex will also discuss how he used failure to intentionally improve his capacity for leadership. A little bit of background on Tex and I's relationship. Basically, we came up in the brightest days of subject matter expert seminars in the CrossFit adjacent community. He led the CrossFit football seminars, which later became Power Athlete HQ. And at the time, I was leading the CrossFit Strongman course. And we really connected more than a decade ago, living a similar lifestyle with a hunger to learn and share movement with the world. So the conversation you're about to hear is between two friends who are in a different space for teaching. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we've both found a sort of transcendent conversation in leadership. Enjoy. Tex.
Speed.
We're back. Okay.
We're back.
Yeah, we're here for the banter. You're a tier 1 banter guy, I'd say.
I've seen enough movies.
Yeah, level 1 banter. Thanks for being here. You've flown in to coach us up tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, we can talk about that. I'm excited to talk about all the things that you're doing. Typical of this podcast is starting highly specific with a maybe out of left field question. And I want you to trust me that this question can put us into a lot of great conversations. And so the question is, it's a two-parter. First part is, can you tell us what this concept of toes forward is? And the follow-up question is, are we still team toes forward? Elaborate.
Sure. Forward toes. It's an opportunity to squat, step, and lunge within the gym so that we transfer, highly likelihood for us to transfer the squat to then a jump, transfer the squat to then change of direction, or stepping up and seeing the different positions where we're stepping up, toes forward, we're pulling our body through space. Well, my toes are going to be forward, so think about a good sprinting mechanics and position. Our toes are forward. So it's an opportunity to really lean into the principle, strength and conditioning principle of specificity. So a big component of specificity, there's three things that I love to break this down. And this is coming from Franz Bosch's book, Running. Absolutely amazing resource for anyone that wants to get into strength and conditioning to break it down. So how he translates specificity is external structure. So think about the setup. Form follows function. We're going to set up the body for how we want it to reduce force on the field. So we get this controlled environment of a squat and training in beautiful Deuce gym or a collegiate strength and conditioning weight room, so that we get the opportunity to really load up a good athletic position that we're going to then train for change of direction or batting position or returning a serve in volleyball. So it's the great athletic position, introductory for the squat. So then external structure, that's the setup of a movement and how we want them to reduce force, their positioning. Then we have internal structure. This is going to be, I'm just writing these down to keep train of thought. Internal structure, this is now going to be the action of the muscles. How do we want the muscles to dampen and reduce force and redirect?
Yeah.
So a big part of the toes forward is not just the setup, it's also the execution. So think of external structure as the setup of any lift that we're going to teach. It's not just this one movement. I want all of my movements to then help other movements, whether it's in the gym or within the field. So then internal structure is going to be our our muscles dampen and then redirect that force. For strength and conditioning, for sport, again, strength and conditioning for sport, we want to reduce, dampen, and then redirect, right? I'm going to slow down. I'm going to cut. I'm going to have that force drive it into the ground, go back into my body, and then I'm using it, displaying it, going through you if we're playing football. So that's internal structure is going to be your muscle action. Yep. That's what we want. So now for the sport of, well, let's call it, powerlifting, right? And box squatting, using that example. So box squatting, I'm going to sit towards the box. I'm going to maintain my tension. I don't relax when I sit my butt on the box. I'm still maintaining tension. So now we're targeting the amount of force that our Golgi tendons have the capacity to not shut down and kill a squat. Yeah. So that'd be an example of that internal structure, how our muscles are doing. We're pausing for a specific reason, and then we redirect. Yep. We're not going to do that for our field and court sport athletes because that is going to be slow. Yeah. So that's one example. And then the last one is going to be really the muscle action, so the power, the explosion. So one tool I love to apply for training and squatting toes forward for athletes is going to be compensatory acceleration, CAT. Yes, so this is a term coming from Dr. Squat, Dr. Fred Hatfield. So I've had the opportunity to sit down at a table like this and converse in person. Amazing. So one of the most just inspirational people. He's a doctor of philosophy that is one of the strongest people in the world. So great guy. If you haven't picked up his book I would recommend is going to be Power. So the three components that we covered, external structure, I simplify that as your setup. Yeah. Internal structure, this is going to be muscle action. I'm not going to go really slow and steady if I'm training my explosive field court sport athletes. But if I'm training a power lifter, okay, slow and steady. We get the opportunity to target tendons and Golgi tendons, etc. Yep. So plenty of other examples. And then that action, that expression of energy. So compensatory acceleration, I want you to finish fast. Yep. So the example there within a squat, when I'm hit the bottom, that's when our athletes are working the hardest, and then they're finishing the squat towards the top. As mechanical advantage increases, people like to slow down because it gets easy. Yeah. We want them to speed up. Exactly. So finishing through the hips. Yeah. And that power position, it's much like a kettlebell swing. That's another example of compensatory acceleration. You're finishing through your power position. But now if we got that heavy barbell on our back, we're increasing the amount of force that we can produce in that moment in time. So in the sport of fitness, now we're talking about more of an economical position. So I'm not going to be as explosive because I got to do 100 squats. So we need to be more economical in the expression of the action and the energy. Yeah. So it just depends on what the person's goal is that we are training. And so setup, execution, and expression of energy is specificity. So that's why toes forward. Yeah.
Excellent breakdown. Obviously, like incredibly technical. And for those of you that are listening to a leadership podcast and you're curious about how deep we just went on mechanics, I'm bringing us back because I asked you the question in part, and I think you know this, you might not know this. I didn't ask your permission, but you and a lot of what you've taught me over the years shows up in our coaches development in a section that is non-technical. Okay. And so I guess I should give some context. To back up one step, I asked you that question because it's a bit controversial. So those of you that are listening at home, Tex in certain contexts would be asking athletes and movers to squat and do other things, like you said, with their toes forward. Whereas a point of performance for many coaches in a gym context would be to have the toes out. And if you're a nerd like us, that could be a point of contention. And so I asked the question because I don't know if you realize this in your profession, but in our profession, there is a gravitational pull towards being dogmatic, right? There's a liability that guys like us are going to turn into psychopathic, dogmatic leaders who cannot see their methodology from a distance. And so I asked you this question because you've been all around the world teaching coaches and athletes a lot of things, including, in a certain context, this toes forward concept, which could be controversial. Bringing it back. In our coaches development program, there is a section that we're teaching. It's our belief that excellent coaching is a model described as a 3-part developmental series.
Okay.
At the core, good coaches have a technical understanding of what we're doing, right? If you do not have it, you're not a coach. You have to have this technical proficiency, which, just to iron all this out on this podcast, to not leave it out, it's this idea of setting a standard, communicating that standard, and then building back towards the standard when you see deviations from that standard. Okay, that's the technical part. A lot of good coaches need that. A lot of good coaches have it. But then there's this transcendent element of, can you hold your craft in context? And so the example that we give in this coaches development that we do here is, could you, Tex, go all around the world and teach this concept of toes forward in earnest, in integrity, and then could we drop you into a weightlifting hall in China and watch gold and silver and bronze medalists cleaning 200 kilos from the blocks and receive that bar with their toes out and not tap them on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, sir, toes forward," right? And I know that you can do that because you're holding this, based on what you just described to us, this belief in context, which very few coaches and leaders are able to do. Very few, and I really admire that. And it's something that we teach here, using you and the people around you as a model for it. So I really respect the ability to have enough mastery over what you're doing and also know when and where that model breaks. You know what I mean? And so, I really appreciate the context you're able to hold for that. The third level that we teach is leadership, and not every coach who has this technical base and can hold their craft in context is in leadership. And so that's our progression. But that's where I started with the question. So I wanted to check in with you about, is toes forward still the model? And it sounds like it depends, which is a high caliber answer.
Yeah, because we're reverse engineering from that person's goal. So helping them understand, if we are going into rec sports, if we are the occasional pickleball, spike ball, and then just knowing that the Achilles, when you turn 36, that's prime time for a little pop. So getting this opportunity to then reintroduce change of direction and movement to people that are no longer in athletics is also important.
Yeah.
So coaches that are getting into it and understanding there's more than one way to cross this bridge. So we get this opportunity to then explain, if they don't have a goal, okay, we'll try all these different things. So it's reframing it as, this is an athletic squat. This is not how you squat, period. Mm-hmm. This is an athletic squat for this specific reason. So aiming to have them think of this as a new movement, it's different, and getting them to understand there's more than one way to do this. And again, traveling the world and teaching the seminar, 10,000 hours of presenting, arguing, and really arm wrestling people to effectively apply the information that you're teaching that is against their dogma. So now that's a battle in itself, because they have their beliefs. Instead of the coach preaching and teaching their belief at you, now it's, okay, they are set in their ways, and we have to fight and change their minds. So that is ultimately, that was the biggest challenge in learning to try different things. And the beauty of what I loved is movement always won. Yeah. We had a moment when we're teaching this change of direction the force bleed demo. We find the biggest, strongest dude in the room and then have them set up in different positions. And then we just use Newton's law and their effort, their fighting, their force against us to our advantage, to help them understand we want you to work less and be in a better setup, right? External structure to reduce, dampen force and redirect it. So it's helping them and showing them through movement that there's more than one way to us to apply this tool.
Can you give some context for, I guess we can later come back and grab some of your earlier like athletic story, but just as you were describing this idea of being in front of a room of people and having to deliver a compelling message, quite frankly, to a room full of people who are often not just there with like a clean slate, they're often like coming in fully in disagreement, you know? And I think this is a universal topic. So this isn't just a strength and conditioning topic. Being able to clearly articulate your thoughts is a skill that so many aspirational leaders are, you know, a little bit late to the party on, underdeveloped on. It's a skill that they desire. Tell me about getting clear on your message and how that looked. You know, describe to the group, teaching a seminar, what that looked like, understanding your craft well enough to communicate it. Can you tell us a little bit about that period of your life?
Yeah, a lot of growth. So traveling the world, teaching essentially an athletic model to people that were doing general population gyms for the most part. So preparing these coaches that had general pop gyms for when the athlete walks in, or their members' sons, daughters that are playing volleyball and playing basketball. Well, we don't want to give them what mom and dad are doing for fitness. Yeah. They may get in good shape, but it's not going to help them perform. Mm-hmm. So helping them understand and differentiate, there's our general physical preparedness and now our specific physical preparedness and how we want you to set up and execute everything with a barbell. So then it translates into when they got to go to sport practice and survive. So arm wrestling a lot. And I remember when it clicked of what I had to do. So in respect to your model, very technical. And then I'll introduce also ethos, pathos, and logos, another famous,
was that new? Was that just came out?
A couple thousand years ago.
Yeah. All right.
So effectively, ethos is your experience. Yeah. And then logos is going to be the knowledge, logic. And then pathos is going to be your passion. So in that lens, when I started to speak, I was heavy in the logos. I just tried to flex it and drop it here when I'm talking about all these different books that I've read. And then another example I've already used with ethos, my experience, me telling that I sat down with Fred Hatfield and had this conversation with the doctor, Dr. Squat. So that'd be an example of ethos. When you said travel the world, that's me flexing my ethos. But that took years, coaching for 16 years. So now I leaned into logos because that was a passion for me and a strength. And okay, if I didn't understand something, I'll go and research it. Or if somebody says something, I'll ask them where they got that information and then go download everything that where they got it. Going to the source was also a benefit. And then within the passion, like that ability to exude the passion, that took reps for me because I would be so monotone and direct. But then I had, again, 10,000 hours flying all over to then find how to communicate. I was passionate and had a love for this, but then how do I allow my experience and my passion to be listened to? Mm-hmm. And then there was a moment, I started speaking and teaching in 2012, traveling, but then I think it was either 2015 or 2016 when I was leading the seminar and had a new teammate come in, and they were lost, and they didn't have the passion. They were great, like between the whistles, just great guy between the whistles to help really empower somebody and make them feel good about themselves. But then when you put them in front of a group, so then I had to really just start to use my hands, use my body, use my posture and movement to really be engaging. So he didn't have it. So then I just felt I had to turn it up. Yeah. So then that would be me actively thinking about the passion that I'm going to bring to the message, and then putting specific emphasis on certain syllables. So, so I'm making that point, and you help make the information sticky.
Yeah.
And then it was, and I love the whiteboard, as you've seen me present. Now it's bringing the whiteboard to the floor. So I'm not overly writing the information that I need you to know. I'm just referencing the sticky points.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll reference back to it. So in the squat presentation and lecture, I'd go through specificity and be like, external structure. That's why we're doing this. So change, heels out, whatever it is to get that person in a good position. So I'm referencing back to the board. So using logos on the floor, but then really trying to express it with the passion. And then ethos, it just took time to develop that. I had experience as a collegiate athlete, collegiate strength and conditioning coach. So I had experience, but then I needed reps to allow my experience to be listened to. And I remember the moment very clearly. And then from there, just off for the races, speaking NSCA events, speaking. So not just the conferences and clinics that people pay to hear you speak. Now I go into drop me anywhere. This is a conference, and there's people that have never heard or seen the message. They didn't pay, or they paid for the conference. And why are they going to stick around? Because conferences, there's multiple presentations going around. They could sit there for 5 minutes and be like, bored, and leave. And it's just aiming to bring them in. And it's still movement. I want to teach practicals at these big conferences so that I can use my strength and movement. Then this is the arm wrestling match to get people to actually be willing to make a fool of themselves, be the example in a presentation, good, bad, or the otherwise. People in strength and conditioning, they like to pretend to know it all. Yeah. But I would say athletes will lie to you. Movement never will. So a lot of coaches are lying to themselves because they're not willing to train other modalities, to do a lot of the different movement or change of direction stuff that I like to teach, and they're not willing to do that. So helping bring confidence to them that I'll put them in a position to succeed, and then that's something all in itself. So it's not just lecturing on a board. It's also leading a movement practical that people can learn and move and retain, and then go apply. I love to say, go apply on Monday. Yeah. Because a lot of these clinics happen on the weekends. Yeah. So
so much there. It's like, quick tangent. It's like, it's so interesting that coaches bastardize and create fear and avoid the areas in which they're ignorant, and so when you get to these conferences, I'm sure you're exposing a lot of that, so here's something that I would imagine a lot of people would assume in watching you speak. Someone watches you present, and I bet many people walk away just say, man, that guy's got it, and that's some sort of gift. Yeah. And so I'm sort of teeing you up here because I have a little bit of a view behind the curtain. I've seen, you and Luke work, and, different contexts behind the scenes. And I haven't seen a maniacal process around feedback and iteration when it comes to public speaking and a presentation environment the way that you guys have. So what would you say to somebody who just says, man, this guy's got it, must be automatic? Can you give us a peek inside of what sharpening that axe was like? Because we're talking video, we're talking note-taking, we're talking direct feedback. Coach us up. Well,
the first public speaking I ever had a chance to do was as team captain of my college lacrosse team. And I was their captain for 1, 2, 3 years. I was the example guy because public speaking scared me to death.
So you led by just hustle guy, do the right thing guy.
Everything. And that was it. But then I was sophomore, when my seniors graduated, then I step into junior, and they're still the vocal guys, still passionate. And then when I step into my senior year, they're gone. Now, I have to start speaking. It wasn't good. It was bad. Like I remember typing and really sitting down in the library and like typing up the messages that I wanted to say today, and then bringing that typed out piece of paper and then like reading it to the guys. So you battle, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to say, but then how I say it is I'm reading. They're not paying attention.
Yeah.
They're 18 to 22 like me.
Guys, it's a game of inches. And
Is this thing on?
Sorry, it's a game of inches.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that
Super compelling.
reps. And then I realized, like, okay, well, they're not listening to me. So then how do I get them to listen? And that was an arm wrestling. I wouldn't say I figured it out then. Mm-hmm. And then now the focus, a lot of focus with captains and coaches, is that entry-level leadership. When you first step into, take on the role of being a team captain, a lot of it is public speaking. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily what you say. It's going to be how you're saying it, your tonality, to use a public speaking term. And getting into that where we need our guys to show up. Are you showing up and being a jerk, or are you bringing compassion to your team? Because, I mean, we're all in the same boat. So that it's that focus of that entry-level leadership position that, I mean, I'm really leaning into, that there is no one way to do it. Each person's going to be applying the tools differently, but at the same time, like if somebody is pouring water on you in this position, you get the opportunity to grow. Yeah. So it's leaning in that feedback loop that Luke gave me, is because Luke was an amazing public speaker, but he didn't come naturally to him either. He took reps. So it was like these two guys that were not public speakers, that were, I guess Luke was peaked in high school, strong guy in high school.
Yeah, unbelievable high school guy.
Uh-huh. And I mean, tattoo. We can get some B-roll of Luke from the Deuce competition.
Cut in the B-roll.
Luke's tribal armband. Yeah, and then Division III All-Star. I love to poke fun at my mediocrity in my athletic career. Yeah. So then why are people trusting in us to learn this strength and conditioning information? So we really needed to lean into it and have them allow our experience to be listened to. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges is, I imagine you're familiar with the term, is the imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. But that's
never heard of her.
Limiting beliefs that we are putting on ourselves. So when I see kids that are putting that same belief on themselves, I can't just shake them and tell them, oh, you got this, believe in yourself. I need to put them in a position to lead. Yeah. So public speaking is counting 10 squats, 10 push-ups for our guys. That's public speaking. Mm-hmm. So just layering in small doses of speaking opportunities for the athletes I'm working with, instead of just putting the whole weight of the team leadership on them in that position. So it's, even if it's counting. So then I have different phases of development. I still coach high school lacrosse. So push and develop those leaders over time, and know who needs more water and who needs me to pull back and just let them fly.
That's universal as well, what you just said. From a developmental perspective, which is my obsession, it seems like all roads point to some version of the next tolerable, difficult step. You know what I mean? Like you said, part of the progression for Johnny is counting reps verbally in a powerful way. That's the depth. In a Deuce context, we would call that the proper depth of challenge, right? You know, mm-hmm. Sarah Baldwin, who we do a lot of great work with, shout out Sarah Baldwin, somatic therapist. She talks about changing from a somatic perspective, meaning the central nervous system, which is on all the time, people who have experienced trauma and other life experiences. How do you grow past that? Her advice, her words, is take the next tolerable step, right? Training, same thing, right? You got to have the right weight on the bar, right? It's all about how adaptation works. So in a lot of ways, I think that leadership of others in any context is awareness to environment. What is the environment for growth that you said? You said pour water on the person or situation to grow. It's like, how do you do that? And there's something that he said I want to just call attention to is you were joking about the Division III All-Star thing, Luke peaked in high school thing. I think what's hidden behind the jokes is some elevated level of self-awareness. It's almost like, hey, if we're not careful, we're going to be mediocre at this, right? Is the self-awareness piece. And we're only really going to be as good as we are self-aware, and so you can imagine you could have walked your life path and not, had self-awareness to that part. And then you don't index as hard as you did on the education piece. You don't index as hard as you did on clarity and being compelling in your message. I want to hold you a bit to the fire on that feedback loop. Can you talk about some of the specific tactics you guys would use? I remember observing you guys before, during, and after seminars. You're running a camera in the back. You're sitting down with each other, offering feedback. Can you talk about some of those strategies?
Mm-hmm. We filmed everything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too. This is pre just Instagram Reels. Yeah. So we were filming that to then watch our body language, the tonality, measuring the tonality of when we needed to bring the hammer down within respect to our presentation of make this point.
Yeah.
And get rid of the repeater. Yeah. Getting rid of the repeater is really a challenge. That's a common public speaking trap. To help people remember, you say the same thing 3 times.
Yeah.
I get it. However, that loses credibility. So within respect to Luke and I working together, and Callie on this as well, shout out Callie.
Shout out Callie.
It's the...
Would she watch this?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you, Callie. That makes 3 of us watching.
There you go. And Luke.
That's right.
Yeah. Man. That was one of the fun jokes back in the podcast. It's joking how few listeners we had,
right,
and our parents. Anyway, so within that, it was the tonality of our feedback could be direct because we had the time, we had the trust, and so it could be brief, could be bold, and then it's helping ensure that we're not showing that we are making mistakes. So within that, it's like, I forgot this. Okay, well, hey, we're going to circle back on one point I want to have us bring into the next movement segment. So that way, like little things like that, don't say, and backtrack on yourself. And then another great moment we had CrossFit Level 1 staff in Germany attend our Nuremberg seminar. And these guys they're all over the world, jet setting. They are professional speakers.
Their feedback loop is great too.
Oh yeah.
They're hard on each other.
So then they introduced it. We went to Oktoberfest with the boys and they introduced their feedback loop. So it was direct to us in person.
Okay.
And then we're like, just feed us.
Yeah.
And then the email came down with all of that. And it's just little things like, how are we standing when we're not on? If it's Luke and I, right. If Luke is presenting and I'm in the back, how am I positioning myself? Am I sitting down? Am I on my phone? No. So then am I leaning on equipment? Nope. Just maintaining this presence. Because then sometimes you never know when he's going to throw you a volley, not to challenge me, but you get caught in a second presenting and you're like, what are we going to talk about? Or you couldn't remember this exact Zatsiorsky quote. So then you throw it back at your teammate. So you always have to be engaged, whether you're on or not. And then the feedback loop, it was healthy. It was open. It was willing. There was no rebellion in that because we just had so much trust in one another. Very valuable team. Love the team.
It's epic. And it's like, I feel compelled to say this on the mic, so to speak, in case folks that are listening haven't experienced you or that in that environment. But this is easily one of the best, most buttoned up public speaking experiences I've ever seen. And you guys would find a way to do that every weekend, And it may be a small sample size, but you are a self-admitted, not naturally born public speaker. You've offered that Luke allegedly was not coming out of the womb giving keynote speeches, and people every once in a while have said that I might be good at that, and I quickly remind people that I would cry real tears in front of a public audience up and into adulthood. So I am not naturally good at that as well. But what goes on behind the scenes to make that possible is this very much adaptive feedback loop, on purpose developmental thing, and so many people that are in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership view public speaking in a very fixed mindset to bring in the Dweck model, and so I just want to acknowledge that this was a very deliberate, on purpose skill development thing.
Yeah. And the term all throughout, it's zone of proximal development. So this is a child development term where you're just teaching them just outside their reach, and they're reaching, aspiring, wanting to learn the skill, or this very common elementary school term. So in that same respect, if you're wanting to dose public speaking, I want you to think of everything as public speaking. Mm-hmm. This is public speaking. If I'm addressing a training partner, that's public speaking. Mm-hmm. So everything is public speaking. Now it's just, am I speaking to 1, 2, 3, 4, and gradually increasing the amount of opportunities that you're presenting to yourself. Everything is public speaking, if it's 1-to-1 or 1-to-100.
Yeah. There's it's interesting that you seem to remember the moment that something clicked for you with public speaking, because I remember the exact moment that I went from not being able to stand in front of a group of people without crying. I'm talking just quick tangent story. This started in second grade. We had to recite poems in elementary school. I was a very good student, 4.6, could not talk in front of people publicly, right? So it's like, it wasn't for lack of trying or whatever. I would fail every instance of that from second grade to college. But there was one moment for me, and then I'm curious to hear about for you what that felt like, or if there's anything you remember about that. For me, it was realizing that I was in the room with the people that I was talking to, which might sound confusing, but I think I struggled so much with public speaking, and a lot of people do, because it's made to be something else. It's like this grandiose presentation of, it's a speech, so to speak, and the moment that I just allowed myself to be in the room with the people and be myself and they be themselves, like, I don't know how to describe that other than that it got tolerable and easy instantly. What do you remember about this clicking for you?
The clicking, like I loved the information so much that I wanted to share it with other people. Okay. So that took time, that took reps, and then the perspective that I had, and I struggled to accept compliments. So when people would see a presentation or something, they'd tell me, "Oh, that's great," and I would refuse it. And then shout out Callie again. So another moment with one of her friends, Lexi, who unfortunately passed away. Yeah. She would help us out with our annual conference, and Callie and Lexi would come early and just stay with me and help us get everything set up. So then Lexi, she was commenting on like me as being just a quiet person hanging out, but then almost being like a different character when I presented. And so her saying that, it's like, well, like, I'm the same person. This is just now I get the opportunity to be listened to. Okay. So if I'm so passionate about this information, I'm presenting tomorrow to your team, like, that's my moment where I get the chance to be listened to. Because I got 5 sisters. It was a crowded youth, and it's always the short end of the stick. I was a thankless position in every sport I've ever played. So while I had success within the respect of those teams, now when I'm public speaking, now this is my opportunity to get listened to, and I'm not going to be selfish with that time. Like, I want to give in the short hour that I have, whether it's 5 minutes in our pre-practice huddle, or if it's 3 hours within a clinic, or if it's freaking 16 hours like the good old days, then okay, we're going to make the most of this moment to then hand off my experience to you to then you go take it and run with it.
Yeah. So it's like in service almost is like kind of the idea of giving to others.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You mentioned some of the, maybe not on purpose, but you mentioned some of the reasons why you were able to exchange feedback as well as you could. You know, we in our propaganda, we throw around this language that the world's best teams have two ingredients, trust and willingness. And you were throwing around trust, like you were able to be direct, succinct, sometimes powerful in your feedback to each other. And you kept saying because the trust was there. Culturally, can you talk about, in your experience, athletically or otherwise, what makes the best team cultures for you and any thoughts you have with that?
I love that. So my focus would be with the respective team, Luke and Callie. They wanted to see me succeed. Yeah. They knew me for the banter and the hangout, and then they would see me get nervous or not be myself in that speaking opportunity. Yeah. So then the feedback, anything that they did give, would be so that I could be myself more. Mm-hmm. It'd be the text that they knew up there on the stage or in this moment, this opportunity that we'd have for ourselves. So the feedback was poured. We were watering the plants because they wanted to see me succeed. So then in respect to a team, for any athletes out there, or I mean, even within a business, you want to find a community, an environment, a team that wants to see you succeed. They're not pushing or pressing or dragging you down. So there's a difference between candor, a specific term where we're bantering, we're talking trash to each other, and that way we can build a bridge and a bond, versus putting somebody down.
Yeah. Say more about that. Because great teams do have intense candor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, baseball, yeah. Dude, baseball locker room for sure.
Yeah, say more about baseball and how great that is.
I'm a big baseball guy. I just got back from the Rays.
You were the biggest closeted baseball fan whole time
I've been
knowing you.
Open this whole time.
I disagree. There was so much.
I make fun of the sport. That's candor,
right?
Because that is me building a bridge and a bond with you.
Meta of you. Thank you. Okay, continue.
I just learned that term because how I was describing what I do for a living to a lot of people in Austin, I'd be like, "Yeah, I coach coaches for a living. Right. Teach people how to teach people." And then they were like, "Oh, that's so meta."
Yeah.
So then I thought it was like some weird Austin term, but then it actually is a technical term where you're working on whatever work on. I don't know. I forget what it is specifically, but I was like, "Oh, I thought you guys were just trying to call me like cool or
hippie
something."
Or something. Yeah.
What'd you say to me?
Yeah.
No.
What'd you call me?
So
back to candor. Great teams seems like there's correlation to the amount of shit talking that goes on, and it's usually supreme shit talking.
Yeah.
And as I think back on it, it seems like it is facilitated by, in our dogma, the trust and willingness present in the system. Because if you don't trust, love, appreciate, not in the same moving in the same direction to the same mission, maybe it's not okay to really dig you. But yeah.
So with the trust and the willingness, it needs to be established. Yeah. And so the candor is a way to certain teams. That's how I'm able to step into the room and hit the ground running. Like going to Dam Neck to work with the best of the best operators. I'm going to bring some candor and talk a little trash because then, okay, that's their language. Mm-hmm. So certain high school teams, I can't go in and start putting the guys down because they haven't built their self-esteem yet.
Yeah.
So I can use candor to start to build their self-esteem. So what I love to joke about calf sizes. So you've got...
I'm all set, right?
You are all set. However, for the record, he's all set, but I'm not going to let you know that. So for example...
Why? Because we're not trying to win a Super Bowl together? Why not?
Well...
because you want to... Okay, go ahead.
I need to build your self-esteem and confidence. So then I see the calves that are clearly developed, and I'm going to tell you, dude, what's going on with your calves? Or one of my favorites is, I think you got a loose string hanging from your sleeve. Oh, that's your arm.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They have the muscles.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting them down. I'm giving them candor. And then my pushback is it true? And they're like, no, I got great calves. What's coach talking about? So I'm teaching them how to now absorb, dampen, reduce trash talking.
Yeah.
So when somebody that is malicious that then starts to say these things like a teammate, an opponent, or just a bully, then is it true? No, they're saying these things just to try to get under my skin. It's not true. I got great calves. So finding something that is not true, and I start to just rib them a little bit. I won't say dig, rib. So then teach them how to now give it back, to deflect. So then an easy one, and I'm okay with it, is my height. So I'd be like, actually, if I were you, I would say, like, coach, I'm always looking down on you. And I would redirect and say, dude, I look up to all my athletes because they're taller than me. So I'm okay with my 5'7" genetic trash can from Katy, Texas. It's okay.
Well-developed athletic frame.
Yeah. So that's an example. It's not true. So I teach them then, instead of just bowing up, because those penalties, I coach defense, are costly when second man always gets caught. So now imagine in your office, in your future life, like post sports.
Yeah. How do we talk trash in the office, Tex?
Well, it should be fun banter, right? So without crossing the line. So then they have this bond that they can build within the office, and versus any, inauthentic face that they're putting up, and then just behind the scenes really speaking negatively about others. I hate that. So, and then so this is in a positive sense. There is also in a negative sense where, imagine Johnny Cash's song, A Boy Named Sue. Right? He named him that to toughen him up. So then you get coaches, you get some parents, you get bosses for sure that then treat people negatively. Oh, I'm trying to toughen them up. But humiliation does not lead to humility.
Yeah. Shame and humiliation.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are
not
motivators. Are the lines,
So then the guys of these coaches that are then putting kids down to then toughen them up, when they're actually just leading to what I would refer to as acting in. So they may not be pushing back or fighting to coach, but just internally, now they double down on the weight of a coach's words inside. So they're acting in and just destroying themselves. When they make a mistake, eats it up. So acting in, I mean, especially with the young men that I'm working with in high school, we see it like physical. Imagine I make a mistake, I take my lacrosse stick and hit my helmet with it, or I strike out, I take my bat and try to break Bo Jackson it, something, or take the bat into the dugout, and it's like that is acting in. But acting out would then be stepping out of line with behaviors. If I know you to be a good kid, and then something happened, or you were late, or you're usually a AB student, and then you failed this test. What's going on, man? So that would be an example of acting out that then I can address as a coach. But it stems in how I'm interacting with them, aiming to start to teach a strong self-belief, and then with the understanding that I want them to succeed. Yes, I want you to win. I want to win. But at the same time, like, it's just high school sports. Dude, nobody's going to remember this record in 20 years, but you're going to remember coach's banter.
Yeah.
Think back to your old college strength and conditioning coach and how
we got it.
Phenomenal.
He used to say, let me reach down and grab my, no, this is, he would say, speaking of calves, he's like, gentlemen, you're going to want to reach down and grab your well-developed athletic no, that's just me. You guys just grab your calves.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
He's building the trust, and then the candor. He's like, he's poking fun at you without putting in humiliating you.
Yeah. How much of that? So this is really interesting. I haven't really thought of this in the way that I think that you're very clear about. So maybe a lot of people listening can relate to reflecting on past coaches who were particularly hard. I mean, do you have thoughts of like the difference between old school and, I think you have just a very evolved approach here that probably wasn't present a lot. But some of my favorite coaches were brutally hard. And somehow, for some players, that was not just okay, it really worked and was really helpful, but it seemed to not work for other players. Is what you're saying dependent on who's on the other end, or what are your thoughts about that?
We need to have an array and a range of communication and talent. This is all small ball between the whistles conversations. So there's leading that group like Turley did and having some coach jokes. Like those are hilarious and fun. But at the same time, how did Turley treat you between the whistles?
Yeah.
It was different for you than it was the other kids.
Okay.
So whether he realizes or not, I have a framework for teaching this because I got to communicate this and aim to develop, I'll call it social emotional leadership. Yeah. So coaches that are more aware instead of just the push and the fight. So it does start with self-awareness. So you need to be open about your flaws and all this because kids are going to talk trash back. They're going to look at your behaviors as a model, whether they realize it or not, and they're also going to look at your behaviors as something they could use against you. Mm-hmm. So if you start to now favor the certain kids on the team, now I start to build culture killers, resentment, envy. Playing time is a big one within in respect to high school sports with lacrosse, right? Because minutes are not even. Every game's up in the air. A different experience than managing a team in baseball.
Preferential treatment.
Yeah.
Okay.
All these little things that then a coach needs to have an array, and then you layer parents on top of it, and this whole thing now becomes like really difficult to navigate and manage because you have their parents, they have their expectations for their kids, they got their expectations of you, coach. They got their expectations of the program, and then just dads talking, the old right field dads, the guys that were they couldn't sit in the stands because they were too loud, so they just sent them to right field. Those dads are very difficult to deal with. So then you never know what's going on at home. A lot of homes assume that school is going to teach these lessons, and then school assumes that home is going to teach these lessons. So now, within the respect to the kids, it's treating each one like they need to be treated in this moment. It's understanding also the zone of proximal development that I'm going to have a range of emotions and anger just to help them increase their social awareness. And when managing and dealing with a leader that then has a set standard and expectation of them, and then their behaviors are not matching or working towards said standard. So it's you being self-aware. I would frame it social emotional leadership, your self-awareness, then your social awareness of what I'm saying to this kid. How is she taking it? Are they starting to act in and just shame and hide and disappear? Or are they, yes, sir, I got you next time. Yeah. How are they responding to it? And then self-management from respect to a coach, when things are not going right during practice or a game, or a kid starts talking back to me just because they had a bad day or something else is going on, how am I managing this scenario to then prepare that? So I also need to teach self-management, which we're going to get into tomorrow, is now I'm going to apply the psychology of discomfort, aka conditioning, to really see who my kids are. Who are they individually, and who are they as a teammate? Do they step up and lead if we're just holding some pillars? Do they say, all right, guys, stay up, we got this? Or do they just disappear up their own ass and try to survive for the 60 seconds?
Yeah.
Teachable moment. Yeah, all that.
So using conditioning and strength and conditioning and training to then teach all of these social, emotional, and then seeing where one kid goes, and I need a moment with him. Yeah. So I can teach lead individuals, and I can lead teams. So applying the tools to the team, but then seeing what individuals need more.
Yeah, that's we break it,
anybody would, but like we break down the collective conversation is different than the individual conversation. And it sounds like this rapport building and maintenance can happen a lot between the whistles as like a custom, this is what Tex needs, this is what Johnny needs, this is what Timmy needs type of thing. You said something before we started that was interesting. And you said that sports are not teaching.
Sports don't teach lessons.
Sports don't teach lessons. Because here's an assumption that I've made, and maybe we can like flesh this out here together. I've sort of looked at the self-awareness thing as really being supported by the constraints of sport. Like, how do you learn about yourself? Oh, you're introduced to these environments that are going to reflect back to you more information about who you are and increase self-awareness. But if I'm hearing you, is that where we are growing the self-awareness, or do you need a coach, or in your case, a captain or somebody to translate what's happening between the lines to build self-awareness? Like, it's not, it sounds like you don't believe that would be part and parcel. Like, playing the game does not introduce you to self-awareness. There's some other thing.
The aim would be the sport is the vehicle, that then the team leader helps guide you for what is after sport, whatever it may be. Because your sporting career ends, period, end of story. Whether we're football, baseball, even in long endurance running, it's going to end where you can no longer do that. So the coaches, the team leaders, then step in and help build the bonds. Because I had two college coaches. One was a dictator. One was an awesome guy. He was his first college coaching position, and I was his first team captain, so we have a great relationship. That first coach, people only played for him to spite him.
Yeah.
So they were...
That's ineffective and toxic? Is that what, I mean...
Oh, well, yeah, those guys hated lacrosse, but they were only playing because they didn't want him to be right. So we came together as a team in a mutual hate against the head coach because it was such a toxic environment. And nobody was going to let another teammate quit or let what he said get to us. Yeah. So we were able to build that bond. And kids are going to luck into great coaching environments. They're going to luck into negative coaching environments, but you can still be a good dude to your dudes. So that's where the captain's respect to building a team comes in and teaching the lessons. Then you have the lifelong bonds. You're in each other's weddings, and it's great banter. And now you're pulling out Coach Turley lines when you all get together. So it's an opportunity. It's a vehicle. It's an opportunity, but the team leader needs to understand the responsibility that they have, that this kid is playing baseball for you, playing softball for you. And so that is a lot of responsibility. So you need to model how you want them to react when things don't go right in life. You want to model how you want to lift somebody up. You want to model how to give a teammate or somebody you're leading constructive criticism so they still can step up to the plate their next opportunity and succeed, versus shaming, putting down, humiliating them. So then they are even more scared, and it's just, okay, maybe they don't say anything, they don't express it, but it's acting in, it's going on inside their mind, their next opportunity to take that healthy risk. Sport is healthy risk. And then more often than not, that negative environment, it leads to coaching scars. So things that a coach said that you hold on to and you start to believe about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of learning this live with you right now, and so, don't take my questions as just trying to fight you. I'm like really curious. It sounds like what you're talking about is largely the leadership and responsibility of the coach or the captain or the individual sort of that is disseminating this growth opportunity. But just as a challenge, help me understand how the same coach who I think, who I've seen be remarkably effective, positive, non-toxic, and win with some cultures, or let's say like teams coming through, but not others, right? So sample size, you get a block of 4 or 5 years where the culture is incredible. You have a winning program, no different approach from the top down, but then you have people who would report in a later, era, all this negative stuff, right? And so I guess what's the other side of it from a athlete perspective? There's some responsibility on towing the line and showing up in their own leadership, and I guess, I'm just describing a scenario, but maybe the positive way to ask the question is, how do you come in to a new group of people and win over and develop a great culture? Because it seems like with the same coach, you can have 2 different environments.
Oh yeah. This is why I love high school. This is why I love college sports, because every year is a new team. As soon as your team captains graduate, now new leaders step in. And how I'm preparing for that, anticipating people moving on and new leaders stepping into it. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's why I love high school sports. Meet these kids as a freshman, and then in 1, 2, 3, 4 years, they're a whole different person. Yeah. So I would frame it as the A way versus the way. A lot of coaches step in and say, hey, this is the way we're going to do things. And a lot of the professional levels, that doesn't work out, because you get guys that had success leading to those moments that did it a whole different way. Mm-hmm. So now they're forced into this way, and you start to build that resentment of, I don't want to show up. I don't want to be here. Yeah. This is no longer fun. I understand it is a job. We are professionals, but there's no enthusiasm to participate. But there's a lot of professional coaches that do that so well. So maybe they're taking tools that have worked in the past, but it's not registering with the current group and team that they have. Yeah. So they're maybe limited in the social awareness to what they're saying, what they're applying is not getting in there. Yeah. Also, the external fact, the X factor at the high school level especially, is going to be the parents. What is the ride home? What is said at the dinner table? Yeah. Is it reflective of the love and passion? I loved watching you play. Let's go get ice cream, win or lose. Or is it, what the hell were you thinking in the third period? Also, the challenge with parents is they hold on to what's called a 10-game season. If there's a snafu or like a coaching decision, or we're getting beat on a specific play on week 1, guess what naturally we do as sport coaches? Okay, somebody exposed a glaring hole in our defense. We're going back to the drawing board, so that way in week 2, 8 never happens again. Because we know the other schools are watching film and they're going to try to expose it, so we got to fix this now. So whether in week 5 or 6, parents are they're locked on week 1 what happened. We see this a lot on fandom, but a fan is, that passion and craziness that we see just in the stands at games, if it's your own kid, it's ramped up. So they hold on to those lessons, hopefully they're lessons. They hold on to those poor decisions coaches made from week 2 and 3. And it's like, dude, we're on week 8. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah. But then coach has to play that game a little bit. So what are they saying outside of that then is negatively affecting the team and the culture? What is a coach said to a kid that maybe is misinterpreted and internalized? And then again, when they don't say anything, we start to see some, but then when I go to address it, kid's already tanked and he's pulled a bunch of other kids with him. Yeah. So it all depends, and hopefully they have the awareness to then make adjustments. That it's not what is beautifully done at a lot of places and I had the opportunity to interview Tennessee's head swim coach of This Is Tennessee Swimming. Mm-hmm. This is Vols Swimming. So that's an identity. So now they attract and recruit the people that want to be a part of that identity. Yeah. So that's the beauty of college sports as well, which if you listen to that podcast is with the certain rules that are in place, that is
to maintain a culture over years.
That's what that podcast is all about. Yeah. Well, maintaining the culture with the new roster limits, the new NIL, and all those culture killers that could potentially pop up. Because when all of a sudden the athletes are making more than the coaches at the college level.
Power dynamics change. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's the fear? I mean, NFL's got the problem where athletes go and find their own personal trainers to train with, but they still have to show up for their team training. So there's conflict there. But now imagine at the college level where a dude making X $1 million, it's like, I'm not going to listen to you, coach. I got my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, crazy. I just today I was having a conversation with a shout out to Coach Kyle, one of the better strength and conditioning coaches in the state, this half of the country, whatever, for field and court sport athletes, has an incredible softball player amongst his roster of players. And, she showed up in a brand new car today. And I asked him, I was like, we got an NIL deal going, whatever. And he's like, absolutely. And, he mentioned that this woman who's a remarkable person and remarkable player, he's like, she isn't even the highest paid player on the team. And she has a teammate that is signed a $2.1 million a year deal. Awesome. Right. Yeah. But like the dynamic, how would that, you got teammates who are borrowing swipes at the meal at the cafeteria, it's just interesting dynamics.
You got to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
I've seen one college basketball coach basically write down everybody's what they're making, their salary, if you will. I don't know what it's exactly called. Their the money they're getting an NIL deal.
Yeah.
And so when the guys are at zero, start to complain about certain things, he's framing it as everything's out in the open.
Right. Transparency.
Work harder.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you want that money? Well, let me tell you about your game. So he's not being an asshole. He's having them hold the mirror up.
Yeah.
On their own performance. So that's a great transparent way to take. He's chosen to take it on, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other stories of coaches that have found success, but I mean, this is going to be a very interesting year in sports. Again, like these kids are going to they're going to learn money management. They're going to learn all these tools that I guess when they're 23 years old and done with college sports, they'd have to get a real reality check when they get a job. So it's hopefully they're teaching these lessons of what to do and with this opportunity that they have in their bank account. Hopefully.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of those dynamics could be culture killers depending on how you treat it. A lot of the mid-major schools, guys who play really well are gonna, they could shop around. Mitch Canham was a teammate of mine for a brief period in the San Diego Padres organization. He was an incredible catcher from Oregon State. He's now their head coach. They just got eliminated from College World Series. I heard a story about him addressing the potential for lack of skin in the game, lack of culture head on, where he just goes into the locker room and says, I'm going to be here next year. And that's where I stand. And if you're not going to be here next year, let us know now, and kind of like leading with the expectation of like, if we're going to win a national championship, we got to have a certain commitment to the name on your chest, and so it's going to be interesting holding that tension when you can kind of bounce when typically you were locked in. I'm excited to hear about what you're excited about now, which seems like a great meta idea because we've talked about culture and leadership through the lens of sport, but you also are kind of leading your own thing now, former athlete in the private sector. Talk to me about that transition. Talk to me about what's coming with you from sport to this kind of new entrepreneurial venture. What isn't? That transition.
So the captains and coaches and focusing on that entry-level leader. So your first year as a team captain or your first year as a coach. So transitioning from athlete to coach, especially from the college sector, you then go into high school more often than not, and you have the same expectations of these kids that you had for yourself, and then you now start to build resentment. You start to hate these. Why don't they care? What? Oh,
yeah.
So it's building that self-awareness to start. Well, okay, who were you at 14? And get into that. So really highlighting lessons and then just naturally, as you can imagine, owning team warm-ups. So I feel the greatest opportunity for a team, it's the one consistent thing you get.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes every single day, whether we're practice, whether we're training, whether at games, that's our time to prepare it. So I also see it as 35, 50 days that I get of long-term athletic development. What's very common at the high school level and surprising at a lot of college levels, they do the same exact dynamic warm-up every single day, whether it's training, practice, games, everything, board. So then, one, principle of accommodation, if we do the same thing, yes, it's going to be hard when we start, but then all of a sudden we go into a D training, and now I'm at a higher risk of injury just doing the same old warm-up. So have different athletic development phases throughout the season. And a semester, in the beauty of high school, the kid, fall semester, he's a whole different human being. Spring semester, puberty, growth, all that. So he can still go through the same phases of development. It's not the same workout because he's not the same person. So then within that is having huddles. So social, emotional, directed leadership that then taps into self-awareness, social awareness, self-management. Again, I don't want your temper to cost you, your team, some opportunities. Relationship building, teaching young men and women how to build teammates and bonds and relationships on the field. And then the big thing is responsible decision making. That matters in sport. If you are going to make the right decision, you're more likely to get on the field in crunch time. In life, there's no mistakes, right? You get the opportunity, you get one shot. So we're ready to make good decisions that are going to lead you to a successful life. So then having huddles, coaches can lead this with these scripts, daily leadership devotionals focused on the social emotional leadership. Or what I would do is just hand it off to captain. Hey, here's our warm up for the day. Here's the message. Here's the purpose of today. Go. And have a printed out card for them so they practice public speaking.
Cool.
Then they can go from reading the card to then
presenting.
I got this. Or the beauty is maybe when they start to have their own thoughts on that. So instead of just reading the message, what do they think and feel about time management as an example of self-management, right? So progressing through that. And then it's heavy in the self-awareness. Again, working with teenagers, very limited in self-awareness, and it all leads towards responsible decision-making on and off the field. And that's the focus. And then freaking podcast I love. My aim is to do 85% in person. So traveling to teach a lot of clinics. Who do I know in that town? Ring them up. So college professional teams have been very gracious to open their doors to me. So it's a message and mission that people are resonating with, and they think back to their careers and willing to share their expertise in respect to their entry level leadership moments.
That's epic. Yeah, my favorite thing, I think, I did a lot of reflecting recently on a trip, and I think one of my favorite things is connecting seemingly disparate ideas and people. And here you are talking about leadership in the context of sport generally, and you're literally naming terms that folks like Frederick Laloux, whose framework we use in our presentation on the evolution of organizations, talks about the highest expression of organizations has certain characteristics. Self-management is one. He uses the words distributed decision-making, right? But this is what you're saying, right? Yeah. And it's just so beautiful that when folks are doing difficult, edgy things, trying to win a championship, trying to build a company that does well, we sort of, all roads lead to these almost like universal truths. And it just feels really good to hear that from you. You know?
And yeah, that makes me feel good, because then it's like, oh, I haven't heard of that man. I'll now dive in and understand. And that'll help bolster and reinforce the lessons and the depth of that. I can talk about self-awareness, but how am I teaching others to teach others self-awareness instead of just, which is traditional, just yell at the damn kids?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's such a paradox around how will we define the standards in this organization. And in an athletic sense, what I've, and people who have heard me on this podcast are probably tired of hearing about it, but like what I've observed from a sport context is really on a daily basis what we're trying to do in a for-profit business that's not sports is, can you shift the metrics towards process orientation, higher agency standards? Meaning, like, can I meet this criteria because they're more in our control than the results that are generally not in our control, right? Like, I think that part of what you're saying is the self-awareness and the way that self-awareness development and the way that this team or organization is going to reflect feedback to each other, et cetera, has to come from a definition that doesn't just include what's on the scoreboard.
No.
Right? Like, because, I mean, it always makes sense when I say this in reverse, because I think we've all had like negative experience with this, but we can all imagine what it would be like to be in an organization where you're in my good graces if we've won, and if we've lost, you're in the doghouse, right? We need some sort of better aligned metrics of what is an excellent job, you know, and we can lose excellently and we can win poorly. And how do we define that, you know? And all the best teams that I've ever been on, the feedback, so to speak, the self-awareness growing experiences are rooted in this mastery over process and what's in our control. And that focus somehow leads to more championships, better Q1 revenues, et cetera, you know. And I think it takes leadership that defines that in a culture, or we're going to kind of regress to this outcome focused mean, you know.
Yep. And that I feel strongly that education and leading with that why helps parents lock in, helps kids lock in, because they're only going to see the scoreboard. Yep. They're only going to see the box score, or they're just going to watch their kid the whole time and then clock how many seconds they were on the field versus another kid. So the aim would be to then define, model, shape, and reinforce the expectations. So aiming to be as clear as possible. Here's our expectations for this season. And none of those can be win or losses. Mm-hmm. So if you're very forward with the parents, with the kids, so here's the expectations, and W's and L's are not on the board.
Yeah.
I won't call that out and say it's not about wins, because then that's also the wrong message.
It doesn't work, yeah.
Yeah, we are fighting and putting forth the will to win. Yeah. And I'm teaching you urgency. I'm giving you agency to determine how many of those W's we bring home.
Yeah.
But that's on you.
Yeah.
If we do all these things, again, this is like coach speak. If we do all these things, then it's going to lead the result that you want, which then now we define what it is you want, more goals. So we then find each player builds a specific goal, and then all goals would then lead to effectively an awesome mission for the team, which would be make the playoffs, something, or conference wins. So then I'm modeling all the behaviors that I need them to. I'm showing up 30 minutes before practice. I'm running with the team and showing, I'm not just telling them to do this stuff. I'm modeling the behaviors and the work, the will to win. And I'm against cursing on the field, especially with this day and age. So I don't curse on the field. It doesn't mean I have not let one slip when things didn't go my way. Yeah. But then if a kid curses, it's 10 push-ups right now, no question. So that would be a model. If I curse, I got you guys.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll think strongly next time. And then we're shaping that. That'd be the example of push-ups are the healthy behavior we're trying to get in place. But then it's also the accountability. Instead of coach calling out the cursing, you hear a teammate, let's just call him Matt Couch, one of your teammates, just dropping F-bombs.
Shout out, Couch.
Couch, hit the deck.
Couch doesn't cuss.
I know. That's why this is candor.
He's an angel. Yeah.
He is.
Candor callback. I love that.
Yeah, and then reinforce. If I see it, then we're going to reinforce the great behavior. But if you don't call that out and shape it, and we just let it ride, I'm ignoring the cursing. Come game time, refs are not going to hear that. And again, within the high school sports, a lot of parents assist with different sideline stuff and different stuff. So a lot of parents are on the sideline, and a lot of teams, opponents, they're just cursing up a storm.
Problematic.
So now I have leverage as a sport coach to now communicate to the ref, being like, dude, we can't let the kids talk that way, and then point to the moms on the bench. So just gives me more leverage as a coach to win over the refs.
Yeah, that's epic. As we kind of like come towards the end of this thing, one of the things I admire about you is this commitment to your own growth. I mean, every time we don't see each other that much, but every time I see you, you're further along, more evolved. You know, you have not just a self-awareness, but a willing to go to your edge and be curious. And I just really appreciate that about yourself. And I think it's important for people in positions like yours and leadership positions to model that, right? As opposed to this assumption that people in positions of authority or leadership are somehow like perfect and edgeless or whatever. But is there anything you've changed your mind about? What are you working on right now? I'm just curious about where you feel you're growing, you know?
Sharing more. Like a term that Justin Kavanaugh, Coach Cav, used to describe me is second and satisfied. So John C. Maxwell has written so many leadership books, but he also has a team member that helps him craft the ideas and turn them into words. And so the man's escaping my name. This is exactly the fault of the second and satisfied. You're just out there. Yeah. So it was a lot of, again, I joke, I'm a recovering Irish Catholic. Like shame was just so heavy within it that it's like, don't give me a compliment. Don't give me any praise. Don't give me anything. Just, I'll push it all away. And that was inauthentic humility. It was me not willing to accept the hard work. I was doing the hard work just because I felt so bad about myself.
Right.
So then, again, doing the thankless jobs, doing the thankless positions within sport, lacrosse, short stick, D-midi, for any lacrosse people out there. I'm not in the stat sheet. Maybe I got more career knockouts than goals. So just doing that to push praise away. I don't want to be the dude. I'll just prop everybody up. Yeah. Again, freaking 10,000 hours of podcasting as well. So then it's just not sharing a lot of stories. Let's just position someone up and make them look awesome. Be like, oh, great job. Yeah. So then it's accepting compliments, and then what I want to use then is this, and this is a term. It's called post-traumatic growth, to where this journey that I am going on, it turns into story, because there are kids that are where I was, just shame-based motivators that are just internally acting in, and then sure, maybe it leads to success, like an opportunity to play college ball, but then it eats you alive and destroys everything, because you are just unwilling to accept grace, love from anyone. So just identifying that and forcing myself, right? Zone of proximal development. Somebody gives me a compliment.
How do I?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That hurt. Yeah. So aiming to accomplish that, and then use these stories to try to understand. And then, yes, I'm intellectualizing this stuff, but it helps me understand if I see a behavior in a kid, I got to tackle it now, because I understand what that seed turns into in 15 years. Yeah. So it's highlighting what I've learned, behaviors, and then a lot of this stuff, it does come naturally to people, like their ability to bant and connect and relate to athletes, but then they're limited in their maybe understanding of X's and O's and strength and conditioning. But then you have people that understand the X's and O's, but they can't relate to the kids. Yeah. And so all the components I feel that are making a great coach, agnostic of sport, training, etc., highlighting those, and then just providing an opportunity for somebody that self-identifies a weakness, or if they're a great leader that cares about them, highlights a weakness, and instead of shaming them for that, gives them an opportunity to grow and get direction. Yeah. So it's post-traumatic growth, turning those into lessons for others, and then it's a lot of in Texas ball, a lot of rampant going after that. Football taught me this. Football didn't teach you anything. So let's realize why Dad loved the coach that he had and the environment that he feels turned him into a winner. And then let's put your kid in a position to understand that versus any toxic environment within sport or home that could lead to coaching scars. They have a negative relationship with authority, fitness, training. That all those negative things are going to cost you your life in 15 years. Because, you hate authority, you hate training, you hate working hard, you are not good at making friends. Let's learn how to be a good teammate at 15. Yeah. So that way you don't just blow up your whole professional career because you're a bad teammate later on in life. Yeah. Crazy.
That's really, I really appreciate you sharing that. And of course you had a great answer to that as a self-aware, growth-oriented person. I think a lot of people hearing that might be surprised or afraid of like their growth edge. And I think that, the only thing tougher or sadder than having a thing to work on is not knowing the answer to that question. And I think people listening right now may or may not know the answer to that question, and really finding out what that is important. And I think that your willingness to do that is obviously has its own benefit, but is a demonstration of leadership, Yeah.
I got my master's in health behavior change. So it was a lot of models. And so my brain works that way. So these models and transitions and definitions and quotes that I've been pulling out, that's how my brain works. So even if they don't know exactly what it is, think how you think, not what you think, how you think, and that can effectively, ultimately, then lead you to something you can fix and work on. And then the big thing with behavior change is the pain of staying in that mindset or continuing to do that has to be greater than the pain of change. Yeah. So, it's pretty easy to stay somewhere, and just because it's easy. And we see this a lot just with behaviors and families, and especially when families enable through shame or trying to pull you down, crabs in a bucket. Yeah. But it's your own people that are supposed to love you. Yeah. It's crazy interesting. And we talked a lot about environment today. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing is just awareness of your environment. Who are the people within your environment wanting to see you succeed, or just pull them down because of their own shame? I don't know.
Yeah, and if you're in a position to build an environment, really be intentional about the environment that you're building. A lot of folks in leadership do have the power to create an environment that serves or does not serve the type of growth you're talking about. I have way more experience being in your seat than my seat asking the question. So is there anything that I've missed that you think we should talk about today?
I still love the movement. So I do continue to train. I love the aspects of developing athleticism, but now just got my own programming out there for Old Bull. I'm 39 years old. So I manipulate and do different movements to target ankle, Achilles health, knee health, hip health, back health, just as a contact sport, and lifting weights forever takes its toll. So find cool ways to manipulate movement, which we're going to get into tomorrow, so that way I can still train hard, lift heavy, and then it's fun. It's creative training. So finding different ways to challenge my own body that doesn't beat it down. So it's less weight. It's still relatively heavy based off the movement challenges where I'm putting the body. So Old Bull, it's training with wisdom, right? The old story. And then I was an idiot when I was 24 and searching for something to do post-college athletics. And then, tried the old rodeo scene. So I got stories which we don't have time for, but so it's an allude and a tip of the cap to the rodeo life and just how I'm feeling and training with wisdom.
So people can buy your program online and
follow along. It's again, I'm doing the program and putting it out there and having fun along the way.
Cool. Yeah, so if you're looking for a great program, you got a place to train, but you don't necessarily know what you're doing, or you're looking for something new, check it out. You want to tell them where to go to find that?
Yeah, captainsandcoaches.com. Yeah. It's going to be training, podcast, leadership content, all that good stuff. And the warm-up packages with the development and the leadership playbooks, if you will.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you for chatting with me. We're going to do this probably 6 or 8 more times in our life, but thank you.
Yes. Thank you, dude.
Yeah,
I'm glad to come out and hang out in Venice, man.
Excited to dial in Coach's Prep with a special guest tomorrow. So I'm glad you're here.
Sweet.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Golly.
Damn, I love that, dude. Thank you for tuning in and being curious about your leadership capacity and understanding. Speaking of leadership capacity, it's probably time for you to head over to holdthestandard.com and dip your toe into a free trial of Leadership Laboratory. In the Leadership Lab, you'll get a weekly coaching session from me and connect with leaders at the edge of their development who are also hungry to grow. Next episode, we're going to hear from the artist's artist, my friend Vava Ribeiro. He's an immortal, ageless soul that will both warm your heart and teach you from the artist side of the brain. So don't miss it.
The minute that you find your comfort zone, you're not satisfied anymore, and you dig into a different neighborhood, a different realm, a different country, and you push yourself to go there because that's fulfilling. Yeah. That's kind of like this curiosity becomes a drive for you to not only succeed in the stuff that you know, because you can always learn within what you're doing, but also to expand outside of like your knowledge. You know, like I come here, like one of the reasons why I like coming to the gym is because every single time that I'm there, I'm humble. You know, I'm learning something new. Either it's being taught to me, or it's been taught to the point where I'm going to put myself in a place that I'm going to discover within myself.